Welcome to the Lighthouse Financial Advisers Money Over 50 podcast with Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Lighthouse Financial Advisers. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today we're here to talk about why we only take on new clients that are aged over 50. So, Dallas, this is your topic.
It is.
But certainly I feel that it'll be easier to talk about this because we can take it as a bit of a brief history of...
Yeah, I was about to suggest that we give a brief history of Lighthouse.
Of Lighthouse. So we started in 2010, and when we started, people of all ages we took on as clients. Yep. So we took on,
as they say, anyone who could fog a mirror.
Well, that's the look, that's definitely the life cycle of a new business. You become a generalist when you start most of the time, and certainly. Just getting your first client is a milestone, no matter how old they are. So we had a pocket of clients within a fairly short period of time, and there were two distinct age ranges of categories, and there was a group that were around 30 years of age, and then there was another group that were around 50 years of age. We worked at pretty quickly that we enjoyed working with people that were aged 50 and over.
I think there's probably a couple of components. Like any business, as you're saying, you end up going down the path of least resistance. In the 30-year-olds that we work with were they took your advice less. There was probably less value that you could there was less things that you could help them with. It wasn't as rewarding, so it was kind of one of those things where over time you just go, geez, every time I meet with a 50-year-old, it's really enjoyable work, it's really valuable work. They're really happy to get the advice. They want to listen, they want to do what I'm saying, and it's funny because every 50-year-old that you talk to now goes, oh, you should work with 30-year-olds as well because then they've got 20 more years, and you go, well, they don't listen, so.
I heard it just yesterday. So a couple meeting with for the second time, and both 50 have adult children in their early 20s. And they said, we just want to, would you talk to them and get them to salary sacrifice into the super? And I started laughing. And I said,
my own father says this, where he goes, I wish when he was a school teacher, and he goes, I wish when I was in my 20s, someone had told me to, salary sacrifice to super. I mean, you did. Q Super used to come to the school and try and have these conversations. And you went, no way, I'm going to the pub, I'm going to play footy, I've got all these,
Look, I remember being in my early 20s thinking, gee, I'll be old when I'm 30. And, but let alone 65, you know what I mean? Like you just, or 60, you cannot, and whilst there's outliers, and there are 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 probably, people in their 20s that will start to salary sacrifice to superannuation and things like that. Why we laugh is that we just haven't met any one of them. Any one of them just yet.
I'm probably the only one that I know.
You're the only one. Now you're in the industry and you're 30 and you look 50.
And my mates tell me that I'm a boring old man, so that's how it works.
Look, I mean, what you just hit on, Dallas, certainly was what I was feeling as well. So anyone that we met with and continue to meet with over 50, there's just so much more you can do with those people. The other thing too is that it's really easy to come up with a plan and those people to be focused. And the people that aren't focused and deviate from the plan, look, it's really easy to say to them, hey, you just don't have the time to get back on track unless you get back on track now. When you're talking to a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old, and we've had plenty of these clients before where they're saying one thing we want to get ahead financially and all those types of things.
But
they're actually demonstrating something different.
Well,
and they're buying fast cars and they're buying bigger houses. And look, it's really hard to have that debate with them and say, okay, look, I can't tell you if you definitely won't have enough to retire because it's 40 years away.
Yeah, you probably So you've got time to recover.
You've actually got time to recover. So, whereas a 55-year-old, they don't have time to recover for those types of things.
That reminds me of a good mate of mine, Daniel. Hey, Daniel. I remember we had a progress meeting with him once, and we talked about all of the serious things. And yes, he had 10 grand saved, and you should do this and contribute this bit to super and do this and add this to your investment, and blah blah blah. And it was all great. Did all the planning, and then a month later, I get a phone call and we go, change of plans, I'm going to buy a racehorse. So you go, okay, we'll throw that out the window. What was the point of spending the time?
What was the point of spending all that time discussing that?
Yeah. So I think that the main, we've discussed this topic at length of why we only take on new clients over 50. And to me, it comes back to two different areas really, is that I guess there's your evolution as a business where you go towards, as I say, the path of least resistance. It's just become easier and easier to work with 50-year-olds compared to 30-year-olds. But then at some point, you really have to make a decision, because the first part of this, I think, is that our retirement system in Australia is kind of amazingly complex when you think about it. It should be a pretty simple thing. You go to work, you save some money for your retirement. But the actual technical knowledge required within our financial system in each of these individual areas is sort of more than one human brain can bear, if that makes sense. So we joke about this, where the technical knowledge required for a 55-year-old couple that walks off the street, and they often say, our situation's fairly simple. It's it won't be a complex thing. You go, well, it depends on both of your taxable incomes, the types of contributions you can make, your preservation ages, your employment.
It is so complex because the husband might be slightly older than the wife, so he gets access to his superannuation at 58, where it's 60 for her. She's in a defined benefit fund, but she's retired from that employer. So
can she roll it out?
Does she leave it there where it's not really growing, or does she move it out? And then he takes a break in work, so she can actually for that financial year only can actually put in $3,000 into his account as a spouse contribution and claim that as a tax deduction. But she can't do that next year. He also qualifies to put $1,000 in to get government co-contribution of $500. He has to stop his salary sacrifice because his taxable income is going to actually come down too low. But next year he needs to start it up again. He can catch up next year. So
I feel like we're being deliberately obtuse here, but not really. That's literally the thought process.
That is a stereotypical new client of ours, or a client of ours, and those types of scenarios. And what we actually see from year to year with the same couples changes dramatically as well.
And so. And that's kind of what we realised, is that you need the just even the pure knowledge of our superannuation system, of our tax law, all that kind of thing. You need to have so much of a base of knowledge there that's applicable to one sort of area of the market. And so we joke about this all the time, where if you walk past a financial planner's office and it says on the sign out front, we do insurance, aged care, retirement planning, self-managed super funds, you just go, unless this guy is some super genius with an IQ of 300, there's just no way that he can be across even just the pure technical knowledge required in each of those different areas. He's not going to do any of those things well.
That's right. So there's two main themes of this podcast. One is that you need the technical knowledge of all of that, which is what we would call the black and white section, because taxation law,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Super system is what it is. So we can work that out each and every year, and it's typically done by financial year. Because there's financial year caps. But the other part is the grey areas. And the grey areas, and to be an expert, and an expert from an advisor point of view, you require both. So you require the technical knowledge, which if you were that said genius,
Yeah.
theoretically,
You could
probably not practically, but
No.
theoretically, you could be across
Yeah.
the technical knowledge of
Yeah.
of
all these different areas.
pre-retirees and 30-year-olds and,
Yeah.
and insurance and aged care and all those types of things.
Yeah.
The second, and we think it's equally as important, are the
Yeah.
grey areas.
Yep.
And what we're talking about here is the common mistakes that we see, for example,
Yep.
that people make in that age bracket as they're approaching retirement, the motivations
Yep.
of those people and what motivates them. Those types of things. So these aren't black and white. We'll call this the grey areas.
Yeah.
Which you just cannot be an expert unless you see repetition of those.
That's I guess the in terms of how those conversations generally go, is that someone might come in and say, hey, we want to we think that we want to retire fully at age 58. And so there's the first component, which is, okay, well then how do we, if you're going to retire at 58, what's your preservation age?
Yes.
How do we fund that? If you're going to only access your super at 60, how do we fund your retirement income for the first 2 years? What does that mean for your safe withdrawal rate? There's all that sort of stuff. But then there's a second component of this, which is what we're talking about, which is, listen, I've seen 20 people that have told me they want to retire at 58.
Yeah.
Not one of them actually does.
No.
And that's kind of where we can give you the black and white information of here's how you would do that. But then, as you say, it's equally valuable to go, I think that what you're saying you want at 52, I want to retire at 58, I think that we're going to get 6 years down the road and you're going to find that you don't actually want that.
That you don't want that. And that's a big one on what motivates people. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas, you've made this comment before, excuse me, in previous podcasts where people say, we want to retire at 58 and just go fishing all the time.
Yeah.
And when they actually do that, or if they do that, they get sick of fishing every day pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And they start doing stupid things.
Yeah.
And I mean, because to an extent they can't sit still. So there's certain people you think, you can't. You need something to occupy you, and you can't sit still, or you're going to start to want to buy a bigger house. So you're going to start to want to
move somewhere.
Move somewhere else, and then move back. Or you're going to, you're going to want to sell a house and build a house. You're going to want to. So all of those things obviously cost money. To be able to do that. So for a lot of people, you're talking about what actually motivates them, and the common mistakes that we see coming off the back of that.
And that's, I guess, the point that I'd make with the repetitions is a great word that you said there. Is that so someone who's been a client of mine for 5 years, if they then come in and say to me, hey, we want to, someone who's been a client of mine for 5 years, they're 55 now, they say, hey, change of plans, we want to retire at 58. There's two components of this. Number one, there's a longitudinal repetition, which is that I've met with them every 6 months for the last 5 years. So when they say, I want to retire in 3 years' time and do nothing or go fishing or play golf, I go, no, you don't. I know you're a nutcase. You could not sit still for more than 5 minutes. So you have that knowledge of that person as an individual, but you also have the breadth of knowledge of, okay, well, I've got 99 other clients, and I've seen people that have retired at 58, and I've seen that wasn't really suitable for them. I've seen people that said they were going to retire at 58 and they didn't end up doing it. So you end up with a bit of a base rate of knowledge of what do people actually practically do, and what are the common mistakes that they make. Because you go, look, you might be the one in 100 that does actually retire at 58 and never work again. That may be the case for you, but the odds are against you, because the other 99 that I've seen, that hasn't happened like that.
And look, we're certainly not against people retiring at 58 if that's what they really want.
No.
When you actually dig a little bit deeper though, and this is the grey areas that we're talking about, because someone that doesn't have experience, clients never come in and say, geez, I'm really unhappy with this certain aspects of this job, and look, I probably do value going to work, and I probably value getting up and having a routine and all that sort of stuff, and And what if I took a step back and moved into another role? Like,
Yeah.
no one ever comes in and says that. They
that's
say,
right.
"Oh, I really want to retire. When do you want to retire?" Yesterday.
Yeah.
When you dig a little bit deeper, what you often find is that it's that organisation that they're working for. It's certain specific parts of that role.
Yeah.
It's a role that they haven't done all of their life, and they've it's just a stopgap measure. So when you start then talking to people and saying, okay, what about if at 58, you're interested in this, or you used to do this, or you have skills in this other area? What if you went and worked part time in a role like that? Or if you segued into a similar role, or if you relieved people in another organisation you did some local work.
And so that's exactly right. I think that if I recall to my study, that's what I noticed when I actually started working as a financial advisor. The difference between you get given a case study to say, someone comes in and says, I want this, we want to buy a $100,000 boat and retire at 58, and these are the inputs, and then it would basically be handed to you, here's the inputs, go and make that happen. Where in reality, that's not at all how these conversations practically go. Someone comes in and says, I want to retire at 58, and you say, why? And then they kind of give an answer, but they normally haven't really given it much thought. It's kind of just a thing of, well, isn't that what everyone wants? And you have to actually, this is like you're saying, the grey area is a great term for this, because it's not the black and white stuff. It's not the technical knowledge. It's the understanding of human emotions and human motivations as to what is it that's actually going to make this person live their most fulfilled, content, happy life, and how do I help them decide what that is and then help them achieve it.
That's right. And so working under the grey areas again, technical knowledge being the first part, the second part being the grey areas. So we see some common mistakes quite a bit. So give us an example of some of the common mistakes that you see.
So the one that, again, going back to the mistakes or decisions that you see people make that don't tend to work out. And that's probably a better way to put it than a mistake, because it's not necessarily, it can be, this is where the black and white comes in, it could be the right decision, but it's generally not. So a good example is someone saying, we're going to buy a house in this area that we think we want to retire to in 5 years' time. So we're going to buy it now, rent it out for 5 years, and then move there. Again, the theory sounds good, and from a purely financial planning perspective, it's not that crazy. But invariably, I've never seen that work, because what happens is people buy that house thinking we'll retire there in 5 years' time. They either work for longer or shorter than they thought. Then they either don't retire to where they thought they'd retire, or they move to that area and realise that actual property isn't suitable for them. They want something smaller or something bigger, or they want something in a slightly different location, all those sorts of things.
There are so many different things there, and I've seen that work out. It's not even 1 out of every 10 times. It's probably at 1 out of every 30 times.
Yeah.
And usually what happens is someone buys that house, moves to that area, decides that they don't like that area, sells that house, moves back to the original city, or moves somewhere else. So they're transacting on houses, and the Queensland Stamps office is getting rich, and local real estate agents getting rich as well.
The same thing with people saying, well, we're going to sell our house and live in a caravan. And then, and you go, you might be, and this is for people who have never really done any caravanning before. There's a host of these types of things that, as you're saying, in the grey areas where it all sounds good in theory, but practically, because we've seen repetition after repetition of this, the amount of people that said, we're going to sell our house and live in a caravan, after 3 months, the husband and wife want to kill each other for being in a confined space. They're sick of constantly being on the road. Same sort of thing, they just want to sell up and go back to live in one location.
Yeah, look, one of the things that we say, because we hear a lot of these things, and we're fine with it if it's the right decision, but we actually ask people to stress test it.
Yeah.
So, for example, moving to a new city that you think you're going to like, or moving to a new town that you think you're going to like in retirement, we tell people, don't sell your existing house. Just keep it for a while. Go and rent in the new place that you think is going to be your new home. And actually stress test it. So it's a much cheaper and less complicated way to do it than to buy early and to sell your existing house. So you actually go and stress test it. Hey, if you come back after 6 months and say, this is panned out exactly the way we wanted it, we love this, we love this new place, we love this new city, we want to live here, then you can actually go and look to put the other two parts in place, which are to sell your existing house first, and then to buy a new house. And you see so many variations of that. Like I've seen people actually, move to Brisbane, for example, and they've bought a house there before they've lived in the city,
and they spend every weekend on the sunny coast.
They've spent all their time on the Sunshine Coast, or they've bought on the south side, and they're spending all their time on their friends are on the north side. And their their club that they've joined now is on the north side, and then they're never there, so they've actually bought in the wrong area. And so stress testing it and actually renting for a period of time makes complete sense to us. Because
I guess across that whole category of common mistakes, things that we see, this is kind of what we're talking about. Unless you were doing this stuff day in, day out, you just wouldn't see enough repetitions of that to know that that's a common mistake.
That's right. So you could be a financial advisor that has 100 clients, and you could have 20 people that are approaching retirement. You could have 20 people that are younger. You could have 20 people in the middle. You could have 20 people in aged care. How many is that? Is that 80 or 100? So you're only seeing one fifth of your clients.
That are going through these
are experiencing
decisions.
These things, and the bunch of 30-year-olds are experiencing different things. You don't see it enough to be able to get a good grasp of the common.
That's right.
The common things that people are doing that actually don't pan out in reality.
It is one of those things where, as you say, even if you had all the requisite technical knowledge across all these different areas, you're just missing out on, as a financial advisor, you can only have so many clients. And if you don't have them in one area, you're just missing out on those repetitions of possible different situations that you could be exposed to, different decisions that clients are making and how they pan out, all those sorts of things. So it's, like we say, I think to me that's the two big takeaways, is that number one, the technical knowledge is that there might be some people out there who are smart enough to have the black and white technical knowledge across all those areas, but it's definitely not me. I don't have the raw horsepower for that. So we have to niche into one area and go, I know everything there is to know about being in your 50s in Australia. Everything there is to know. I'm sure that if someone from England came over and said, hey, what should I do about it? That's a whole different system. I don't know anything about that. That's a whole different system.
Look, it's even to the extent now. So, I've been in the industry coming up to 20 years, and I've looked after so many 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds and provided advice to them in years gone by. But because we haven't done it at all for the last 5 years with our business, I now have people that are 30 that you meet socially
and ask you
and they're asking you questions, and I actually say to them, look, I'm doing you a disservice. I've done this before. But
the rules have changed.
The rules have changed, and I haven't seen the repetitions. I haven't actually done the reps in recent periods of time.
That's right.
And I can't even tell you that. Look, go and see, someone else, and we'll give them the name of another financial advisor who deals with 30-year-olds because
right.
we just haven't seen that.
And that's, I guess, a good point, is it's not, as I say, it's not that we're geniuses and we're the only ones who can do this pre-retirement planning and know all the rules and the rest of it. It's not that, because there's all these other areas that we don't know about. So it's not that we're smarter than everyone else.
Not at all. Not at all. It's what you should be wary of if you're going through the motions of actually looking to speak with a financial advisor. Be very wary of people that are saying we specialise in, and then list more than one thing.
This is a bit like, I remember when I've been in places like Thailand before, and you're walking down the street and you see a restaurant where they go, we do Thai food, Western food, Mexican food. You go, that restaurant is going to be terrible.
Look, that's a great example because you can. I think everyone can walk down the street anywhere and see that and think, gee, that's absurd that they're actually claiming they can specialise in all those types of things.
Yeah.
So when you want Italian, you go to an Italian restaurant, don't you? And when you want Thai food, you go to a Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
There's so many different permutations of that, but you can easily put that equation together.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit harder in our industry, and one of the reasons it's harder is because we have such an intangible industry, and there's different financial advisors that do different things, and some are really, really good, and some are really, really bad, and
the issue with it is probably that the feedback loop is not quick enough. You know what I mean? If you go to one of those restaurants that says they specialise in 5 different things, you order a meal that comes out and you go, geez, that's terrible.
Yes.
I'm walking out of here.
That's right.
You go to see a financial advisor who tells you that they specialise in retirement planning as well as 16 other things. You know, they still probably have more technical knowledge than the average person in the street, and so you just don't know that there are things that they're probably missing out on, or there's conversations they're not having with you that they should be, until it's too late.
And you may never know.
That's
because you can still be progressing financially. But they might only be suggesting 7 of the 10 things that you can do, and the 3 that they're missing are really, really important and would have saved you $10,000 in tax, or given you another $3,000 in government benefits, or
that's one that
those types of things.
I hear that all the time, and it doesn't make any sense to me really. So people often will say, "Yeah, I've got a financial advisor." Oh yeah, and they go, "Yeah, we go in for a review once a year, and as long as the balance is higher than it was the year before, I'm happy." I'm going, in no other aspect of your life would that be good enough? Like you wouldn't engage a builder to build a house for you, and then go, well, as long as it's got 4 walls and a roof, I'm happy.
That's right.
You go, no, I want it to be perfect. I'm paying someone to do a job for me. I want them to get all of the results they possibly can.
That's right, yeah. And we're still, if you did go into that person who's a self-proclaimed expert across all of those areas, even if they get most of the technical knowledge right, it comes to 2 years out from your retirement, and you're subconsciously wondering what you're going to do to fill the time, and your mind starts thinking, okay, well, we want to move to the Sunshine Coast, and you announce that to the financial advisor.
They're just going to they're going to write the note down. They're going to
write the note down and actually try and fill that order. So they're going to say, okay, you do want to move to the Sunshine Coast. So rather than saying, do you really want to do that? And why don't you stress test that? A better answer would be to either rent your house out, or just to leave it as it is and get someone to house sit it. Actually rent for 6 months. On the Sunshine Coast, when you actually make the move, actually stress test it and see if you actually do want to.
That's a good, I like the phrase you used there, being an order taker, and that's really what you want to avoid as a financial advisor, is that most human beings, we don't really know what we want at the best of times. You know what I mean? So the fact that as a financial advisor, you're meant to, if you're a financial advisor and you're just sitting there and someone comes in and you ask them what they want to do, and they just say the first thing that pops into their head, which is normally what we do. If you just go and write that down and then go, okay, here's how you make that happen, you've really missed most of the valuable work, which is to dig into, why do you feel that way? Why do you actually want to achieve that? And you might dig into it and spend 20 minutes talking about it, go, okay, that is exactly what you want, and it does suit you as an individual, and it is something that I've seen all of my other clients do, and it has worked for them in the past. So yes, let's go now and do the financial planning that lines up with you achieving that goal. But unless you're spending that time and that energy thinking first about, are we going down the right path before we worry about how we're going to get there?
So any last comments as we wrap up?
No, not really. Just I think we've touched on about 5 great analogies, which analogies are my favourite things.
I was just wondering if you had come up with latitudinal and longitudinal and thought, I really want to insert this into a podcast.
I want to say those words. So.
I want to say these words in a podcast.
I love when
how am I going to come up with a podcast title?
I love when I say something like that and I just see you go, okay, mate. No, I think it's a great one. I really like the words, and I'm glad that I've got a chance to roll it out.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Lighthouse Financial Advisers. We look forward to catching up again soon.